Hi everyone, welcome to our Writers, Directors, Producers panel presented by Greater Film Festival, a creative community amplifying stories for the greater good. This panel is in partnership with Networking for Career Filmmakers, a Facebook group dedicated to connecting professionals in film and television around the world. I'm Jessica Matat. I'm a producer over at the Enclave Entertainment Group and also the admin for Networking for Career Filmmakers. We are so excited to have this incredible panel of above-the-line talent. I've gotten a chance to meet them now, so here's the time to introduce these female powerhouses. So first, we have Triana Garcia Simon. So Triana, give everybody a wave, please. And let's get to it. So Triana Garcia Simon is a Mexican creator, producer, and writer with a master's degree in television writing from ECAM and a BFA in filmmaking from the New York Film Academy. With over 8 years of industry experience, Triana started her career in LA doing international sales with Automatic Entertainment. Along the way, she was the associate producer for Luis Miguel, the series, most recently worked on La Negociadora and the Bollywood film Sabash Naidu. Triana also joined MGM Studios to establish their Hispanic content branch, Gato Grande, as a content associate and development executive. Next, we have Kemiyondo Coutinho. Would you mind waving for everybody, please? Thank you. Yes. Okay. So now we have Kemiyondo. So Kemi is writer, actor, and director. She marked her debut as a film director with her short film Chenvu, which won the Oscar qualifying award Best Short Film at the Pan-African Film Festival in 2018, making it the first Ugandan film to ever qualify for an Academy Award. She also won awards and honors from NBC Universal, John Singleton's Filmmakers Fellowship, Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Filmmaking Fellowship, and OK Africa's 100 Women of Africa to Watch. She can be seen in Apple TV's Little America. Also a TV writer, Kemi started 5 for 5, which supports Ugandan female filmmakers. Next, we have Esi Yamoah. Esi, would you mind giving a little wave? So, Esi Yamoah is an international award-winning producer. Crossing the African borders, Esi participated in the highly competitive Haile Garima workshop in Luxor, Egypt. After working with well-known professionals such as Tyler Perry, Jason Reitman, and Director X, Esi traveled to Ghana to produce the feature film Gold Coast Lounge, an Afro-noir feature film which received 18 nominations at the Ghana Movie Awards and won the 2019 Best Picture of the Year, her first award as a producer. Esi founded Yamoah Entertainment. I'm going to spell that out for everyone in case I butchered the name. Esi, thank you. Yamoah Entertainment, which strives to create authentic and impactful African content. Next, we have Dionna McMillian. Dionna, hi. So Dionna's bio is that she is a Los Angeles-based director with 12 years of experience in the industry and honorable mentions in Madame Noir, Voyage LA, and Forbes. Dionna is best known for her short comedy film, Love, New York, which was featured on Issa Rae's Color Creative TV platform in 2017 and screened at 13 festivals. Additionally, she directed the first season of lifestyle series on A&E's YFI network and a soon-to-be-released series from Steve Harvey Productions. She holds an MFA in filmmaking from American University and currently teaches directing and editing at the New York Film Academy in Los Angeles as an adjunct professor. Lastly, we have Rashaan Dozier-Escalante. Give us a little wave. Yes. And she is a writer, producer, and director. So, as a writer and director of documentaries, public service announcements, and training media for nonprofits and the federal government, she also completed internships on HBO's Westworld and Big Little Lies. In 2018, Rashaan and her pilot McKenna's Callings were chosen to participate in both the Producers Guild of America Diversity Program and the CBS Writing Mentorship Program. Currently, she is a staff writer on the CBS drama series SEAL Team. Rashaan is a graduate of the Stevens Collins MFA Television and Screenwriting Program, and she is also a member of the WGA and the DGA. Wow, you are all accomplished filmmakers beyond belief. That was just lovely to run through. Before we get into anything though, I really do have to start on the serious note and ask, how is everybody doing? right now? Oh, you can all go off mute. Hello. Yeah.
You know, I wasn't ready for that question.
No, I just really had to ask because I know that we're all going through it, and I just really want to know what's going on with everyone.
I'm feeling a lot of things. With Chadwick's passing, I think it was a big punch that I wasn't personally expecting. And it's grief is hard when you don't know the person, but you're feeling things as if you do know the person. And so I think right now I'm in a space of negotiating, feeling heavy, and also feeling inspired about what he did, especially in his last 4 years. But I'm feeling it's making me want to do more with my own work.
I love that, and I 100% feel you on that. Does anybody else have anything to say as well on how we're all doing?
I think that it's been a really hard couple of months, and between the pandemic on all of the issues in the United States that we've been facing, um, we've got a lot of hope, but at the same time, it's a bit exhausting. It's a okay, I'm just going to say it's a 400-year battle. And it's still just as difficult today as it was previously. And the fact that Chadwick is now gone makes it somehow, I don't know. That was just the feather that just broke the camel's back right there. And I don't know where we're going to go, with all of this grief that we've all been feeling for the last couple of months. But I'm very thankful that I have a very supportive family and that I have a very supportive community. And that's what I'm feeling.
I would say for me, it's definitely been a roller coaster since the beginning of the year, where a lot of people are like, okay, these are the goals that I have. This is what I'm going to do. And COVID came and, depending on how you see it, obliterated it, or it shook it up, or I mean, the whole cart just left. Like all your dreams and everything seemed to just run off somewhere. But honestly, for me, it's just like trying to find the silver lining in all of it. Like, how can I continue to still find stability within my personal life, within the community, and trying to make sure that I can still find myself in all of this? Because I feel like if you're not careful, everything that is going on can move you to so many different directions that you feel lost. And so, depending on what people use to help them feel grounded and unprecedented times like this is like what I'm seeking more for, just so I know how to move forward with the next wave that may come. If that's the COVID wave, if that's just something else that we don't see, So I think for me, this is helping me learn how to prepare more, but at the same time, be so grateful for every moment, every day that I'm given, because we are actually sitting down and watching all this happen. And it's like, what can I do to make my life better? What can I do to make my community better during this time?
I think that's like too hard of a question for me to ask right now. And I don't want to, be crying in the first 5 minutes of the panel. So Chadwick's death definitely, that was too much. Like, that was too much. I'm still processing that. I don't even have the words, for the past few months. So I certainly haven't had time to like really process it. It seems like it's just kind of something to deal with like every week or every couple of days or something like that. And not having the time to like, mentally and emotionally catch up is, is tough. So, obviously there's been a lot of really rough and bad things, but there has been some optimism that's come out of it too, in terms of people looking for more diverse voices during all this. And I do feel like some of the mission statements and what I want to say, supportive statements that have come from like, various brands or different like EPs or studio execs, I do feel like there's been a note of awareness and more sincerity to them than I've heard, previously. Mm-hmm. So that's been good. And I do think there will continue to be some more opportunities that come out of these tragedies, but I wish they didn't have to come about this way.
Definitely. I think I'll piggyback on both Esi and Dionna. That it's been like a a roller coaster as well. But it's a lot of time of introspection and trying to find, as they're saying, like some motivation and trying to see what will come out of this and hoping that something better will get here sooner than we expected.
Definitely. You know what I love about all of you is that you all really just touched upon what was going on, but you also shared a note of hope. You know, and that's what I'm holding on to as well. And I'm just wondering, how are you holding on to your hope, maintaining your work and your personal life all at home? Can you guys run me through your day?
I guess I'll start off. For me, it's one of the pillars for me is just spiritually, you know, grounding myself in that. And during this period of time, I've meditated so much more. Like, I just feel like meditation has helped me stay grounded, but at the same time has helped me experience all these emotions. Like, what am I really going through? And meditation has helped me just to calm down my anxiety and to be able to kind of like clear my head and get ready for a new day. So I've done more meditation, yoga. I bought a new bike like a few weeks ago.
I love that.
I bought a new bike. My sister's she's very like minimalistic, and she's like, let's reuse things instead of buying things. So I bought a used bike, and I exercise. I try to exercise maybe 3 times a week and ride my bike and get some fresh air and try to stay healthy physically as much as mentally with my meditations. And then for me, scheduling. I'm pretty sure a lot of us producers, we schedule all the time for so many other projects, but I'm like, I need to schedule my life, okay? So I'm just like, so scheduling, having a calendar helps me break down my day so that when I wake up in the morning, I know exactly what I'm gonna do instead of waking up in the morning and just letting things happen to me. And that doesn't help me feel grounded. It doesn't help me feel like I have somewhat of a control of whatever's going on in my life. So scheduling things out, giving me hope that these are goals that I can still accomplish during COVID. I'm just actually breaking them down throughout my month to make sure I reach those goals. So those are some of the things that my day looks like. And I try to talk to friends, family. You know, we can only go but to so many places. So exercising and going out, riding my bike, meditating helps me have that freedom of liberty within a confined space.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I saw Dionna just constantly nodding her head. Are you all about scheduling and organizing your time as well and, you know, centering yourself? What are you thinking?
Well, I am now. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I've actually gotten more structure with my schedule during quarantine than I was prior to quarantine.
Me too.
Yeah, which is surprising. I think it's because like there's so many things you can't do. You know, to your point, that it really kind of helps you sift out like what's important, what's not important, or what's possible and what's not possible. So I would say I've actually been more focused. I've had more of a like 9 to 5, I guess 9 to 8 p.m. schedule in quarantine. The big thing I found for myself during this is that I don't have enough structure around when I don't work. So I went to film school, and I realized I picked up this habit then of just kind of working all the time, because I would always have like assignments and something on the back burner. And, you know, it's good to have that training because it allows you to be able to handle a lot without getting overwhelmed. But sometimes I allow myself to have too many projects and do too much. So I really just recently, as of like 2 weeks ago, decided like Saturdays have to be an off day for me. So I'm, you know, like I'm doing this panel and I'll do stuff every so once in a while, but I've gotten a lot better at saying, okay, this is my work day. These are my working hours. And this is the time I'm not going to work. And one thing that's helped me that's been really practical is Google Task. They have an app. Yeah, you know, it's on your like Gmail, like on the sidebar, you can click Task. But there's an app, so they have one you can pay like a monthly subscription for, and you can color code everything. But that's great because you can make tasks and then you can break everything down into subtasks, and you can take emails right in your Gmail and say add to task. So that's been my biggest like kind of find in quarantine, and it made everything like pretty achievable.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, actually, also, Triana, I know that you're in Madrid. You know, we had that little chat. So, how are things over there? I mean, are you still going by these types of tips as well? I mean, I really wouldn't know because it's so far away. What's going on?
Yeah, to me it's been a difficult time because I live alone and all my family is in Mexico. And we were confined to the extent of getting tickets if you went outside. So it was like 4 months of almost no human interaction. But I think it's been an interesting time, especially creatively, because I've been able to really dig into myself and really deal, as I think as Dionna was saying, into my personal life and kind of defining spaces. So I think I've been able to process a lot of painful things that I had pending because I hadn't paid attention to them. And so it's been like a lot of not fixing, but really closing chapters and grasping things that I was ignoring for so long that were overwhelming. So it's been like now I feel like it feels like a release, but at the moment it was very overwhelming. But I think that will be perceptible in what I create after this.
I really
I don't know if I answered what you asked, but
you totally did. You know, actually, can we get some visual representation for everyone? I just want to quickly, if you are a writer, would you mind just raising your hand just so we can get everybody to see that? Wow. Okay. What about a director? Oh my goodness. Okay. And producer? Whoa, okay, let's just jump in, and I just gotta ask about writers and producers first, because I know that we got the talented directors here, but we have all the hands for writers and producers. I want to know, what is something that our audience needs to know? Any advice as a writer, as a producer? You know, you've all garnered these incredible mentions and awards, so could you all share a little bit about what's going on in that? Rashaan, will you do it for me? Will you start us off?
Yeah. Presently, I'm writing on a television show, so that leaves very little time to direct or produce. But previously, I was focused on doing things that, excuse me, for nonprofits and the federal government, taking contracts and things of that nature. One of the reasons why I shifted my focus was because of the fact that when you work for the government, they hand you something called an SOP that's this thick, and there's no creativity in it. And it's follow this rule, do this, then, that, you know, things of that nature. And so I was finding for myself that the creativity that I was seeking, I wasn't having, and my dream was running tandem. And so me working right now as singularly a writer is kind of difficult. You know, I need that other creative outlet. So right now I am working on, you know, coming up with something that I can do, you know, in the pandemic, and not stress myself out, because I love my day job. It's very important to me. And I think that in order to keep your head during this thing that's going on, that I'm hoping that's going to end soon, I suggest that people who are like us, multi-hyphenates, find a way to take advantage of that so that we can feed ourselves creatively. Sometimes it's difficult. I know with Dionna, teaching, I used to teach a long time ago, and you can get bogged down with the syllabus and students calling you and, you know, taking care of their needs. And so your creative outlets kind of take a back seat. And so I say to everyone out there, find your creative outlet and just reach for it. It could just be taking your iPhone and, you know, coming up with something, or calling a friend and doing a Zoom call and recording it and thinking about what you can do with that. You know, splicing it together, editing, putting it with some other material that you have, and just seeing what you can come up with. And so that's what I suggest. And that's how I'm keeping my head.
Most definitely. Kemi, would you mind coming in? Because I know that you were agreeing on a lot of those points. I saw you.
Yeah, just a lot of what everyone's saying. I think for me, I actually don't identify as a multi-hyphenate. Uh,
Really?
I don't. I think that there is a lot of like boxes, like, oh, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, a director, blah, blah, blah. Because the thing is, like, I was first an actor, right? And then no one was writing for me. So I was like, all right, then I'll write for me. And then no one was casting me. Then I was like, all right, I'll direct for me. All right. Then no one was like creating these opportunities. And it was like, oh, I'll produce. So I feel like limiting yourself to what you think you are, which is a problem I see a lot in the industry. Like, what are you? And people always ask me, what are you first? I say, I just create stories. I don't know. I just make stories. I don't know. Like before this pandemic, did I think that I would have a non-scripted show? I didn't know that. But I was craving, like Triana said, I live alone. My parents are in Uganda. My family is like all over. I don't see them. And I was craving connection. And so it just happened that I was like, oh, I'm gonna start a flirting show. Like this is the most dumbest idea I ever had. I was like on 2 glasses of wine, like, and I was on Instagram, like, y'all, is this a dope idea or is it whack? And then everyone's like, this is dope, this is dope. My manager calls me the next day, he's like, yo, do this thing. So I'm like, all right, say less, where am I going? And then I created a whole Zoom show of people flirting, and it turned into like one of my favorite projects I've ever done. And I think it's because I don't see myself as like, oh, I only do scripted or I only produce. I'm like, I just create stories, and my stories always are about being seen and letting other people see. Like my production company's logo is to see and be seen. And so whether that's on Twitter, whether I'm making candles, I could make candles tomorrow, but like there'll be something about being seen. And like I paint, I started painting. I don't know what I do, but I think like this idea of like actor, writer, I don't know. I might be a fireman tomorrow. I don't know, but that fireman's gonna make you feel seen. And so I just know that I'm on this earth, and I truly believe it, to make people feel seen. Because even in that flirting show, I cannot tell you more than I did 10 episodes, and there's about 4 episodes where people were like, oh, flirting is about being seen. I didn't know that they were gonna say that. And it was like, wow, I'm just naturally attracted to making other people feel seen. Or sometimes people would write the comments I'd get like, oh my gosh, we never see this kind of person on our screen. So I've never seen like 2 bi men on our screen. I've never seen 2 trans men flirting with each other. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was just thinking, all right, here I am. And so for me, I just identified the closest term I found is that I make stories, I create stories, I make people feel seen, and I like to choose other people to show us how they see.
Can we just talk about being seen for a second? What is that like? Can we just talk about who we write our stories for, who we do these things for? You know, Esi, Dionna, I saw you guys. You know what? Let's just turn off the mutes. Come on. Because I see you guys reacting. I saw Rashaan at one point. She was like, wow. Don't hide it. This is a convo. I really want to hear from you guys. So what are you thinking?
I think Kemi's right. It's like most of the times, depending on what inspires you, is usually something that you either don't see, something you want to just create within yourself because you have this beautiful opportunity to do it, or I think if anything for me, just at least for me, let me just be more specific. The stories that I make are stories that I want to see, or I want to see more of, or I want to see another perspective of, or I just want to see something completely different that unfortunately people who look like me may not be seen as people who can actually make things possible. So I want to write stories that the young Esi, who was 5, 10, 12 years old, was hoping she could see, but never saw herself in it. And to be able to then one day make that for the next generation, the people within our generation, even the older generation. Like, I mean, the things that we're creating right now, they couldn't have even fathomed doing that during their time. And so I think it's important that we continue to keep thinking about the next generation, definitely ourselves, but the next generation, because they're going to be the people to carry our stories, and they're going to be the ones to even elevate it and push it even further. So that's how I feel about that.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Yes, come in.
I think it's now it's a great time for this type of stories, and especially now. I think if we can find something good out of COVID, is that because everything became so digital and so online, there's opportunities for people everywhere. It's not only centralized in Hollywood. So I think it's opening doors and to new voices and to new collaborations that maybe weren't thought of before,
Right.
for logistical problems, right? So I think that's a silver lining we can find right now, and especially in finding diversity and different voices around the world.
I'm wondering, does anybody else have anything to say on this question? Because now I'm eager to ask something to our transatlantic producers. So quickly, anybody else want to bring something in?
I just want to add something small.
Yeah, let's go.
The reason I was just thinking why I started doing this was my green card at the very beginning got denied, right?
Yeah.
And so my whole life I had attached, this will go great into your next question actually. My whole life I had attached creativity and artistry to America. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I can't be in America. And I'm in Uganda and I'm like, oh, I guess my career is over. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. Because you know who doesn't do that? Dancers. Dancers dance, okay? You put them in a supermarket, they're dancing. They're like waiting in line, they're dancing. So I'm like, why should I be saying that my career is over? And what do? I tell stories. So I ended up starting a music platform. I don't even sing, I don't even do music. But I really just wanted people to be seen. And then I started shooting the short film. And I think this is why in COVID, I didn't have the panic of like my career is over. Because I know just like a dancer dances, I'm gonna create stories regardless of what happens, whether it's on Zoom, whether, I don't know, if I wanna go stand on the street. But I think detaching yourself from like boxes, which are then attached to like institutions, I think for me gave me the freedom to know that no matter where you put me, I will create stories.
I love that. Before we go into our transatlantic producing question, which I know you're itching to answer, I have to ask Dionna. Dionna, get in here and give us a little bit of your wisdom. What advice do you have for all of these filmmakers that are watching? What else can we get out of this? Because I am loving these sound bites and I just want some more.
I don't know if I have any advice, but I'll talk about my experience and what I attempt to do as a storyteller. So my focus is really on feel-good stories. Like I grew up loving like Hollywood blockbusters and like, you know, kind of fun films and like Disney films and stuff like that. I do love like artsy, you know, more artistic, serious films too, but that's not necessarily what drew me to wanting to make film. And so I'm kind of in an interesting place as a filmmaker because a lot of times people aren't necessarily looking for feel-good films from people who look like me, which I really struggle with. A lot of times they want to see stories about trauma or, you know, whatever this like really like tough narrative. It can be from many things about racism or growing up this way or that. And so I think the biggest thing for me has been like trying to keep my voice while also trying to figure out, okay, how do I sell myself to people as well? And how do I get recognition? So my one of the biggest films that influenced me growing up was Love Jones with Larenz Tate and Nia Long. It's still, I went to film school and have, you know, watched all these fancy films and stuff, and it's still one of my favorite films, one of my top 5 easily. And the thing that I loved about that film the most is that Larenz Tate and Nia Long just got to be people. Like it wasn't about their race, it wasn't about all this other stuff, but they were still Black. You know, it still celebrated them and who they were, but they were people first. And so for me, that's where I'm always telling my stories from, that my characters are people first. They're not Black or biracial or whatever race they are first. They're not, you know, women first normally. Sometimes they are, some of my films, but that's not normally the thing that's most important to me. And they're not like, their body size first or whatever. And so that's what's most important to me. And, you know, something I'm wondering about is something I'm hoping doesn't happen. Let me put it this way, is that I'm hoping what doesn't happen in this kind of movement of wanting to hear more diverse voices is that people don't get the impression that it has to be focused on trauma and pain. Because obviously we're seeing a lot of trauma and pain right now. And I think there are certain segments of our society who this is maybe very, very new to. I don't think any of us have ever experienced it as much as we are. Well, I won't say any of us, but I don't think that's like an average experience, to say the least. But I think there's certain segments of our society who this is like really new, and they want to learn about it and they want to study it. And from that kind of comes, well, because we want to study that, then we want to select or curate just work that talks about that. And don't get me wrong, like that work is important. It's critical. Like those stories have to be told, but they can't be like, it can't just be those types of stories. So I don't really know what conclusion I'm getting to, but I guess, you know, in short, like, you know, what I try to make is feel good films about people and race and stuff being secondary in most of my work. And I'm hopeful that there's a lane and that there's a space for that, you know, as people of color, as women, et cetera, that we're not just limited to being just telling one type of story. So
100%.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. And now that I'm like thinking about it, you know, Esi mentioned a point earlier about how she's like creating films, you know, stuff that she would want her younger self to see. And that's how I feel as a Muslim American. I feel 100% that way too. And now I'm wondering how I can combine these two questions, because I got the transatlantic crowd with Esi, Triana, and Kemi, and then bi-coastal with Rashaan. But I know that you're also easing into talking about business. So how about we talk about what it's like to cater to an international market business-wise? You know, let's give our audience a little bit of perspective, not only in craft, but in business on what we do. Does anybody want to start us off?
Sure. It's going to sound a bit of a cop-out, but like what Esi was saying is exactly how I feel. I don't cater to any audience. I cater to myself. And I you know, I said this on my Instagram. I am my first audience. Because once I start, what do they want? Who are they? And they is reacting to work that was created 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And so by the time I'm creating it now, they have moved, you know? And so this is what I say. If I'm spending my money and my time to create something, if it flops, I must at least enjoy it. I must be like, damn, that was a $50,000 movie ticket, but I had a great time watching it. Because I'll be so upset if I spent all that time and money creating this thing that I don't even like and that they didn't like either. And so for me, I honestly believe, especially, and I credit social media, is that we're not that different. The Ugandan crowd is not that different from the American crowd. When I created Chemvu, I was not even thinking about the crowd, and yet it resonated because for me, the more specific you get about a story, the more international it becomes. And so I think sometimes we're focused on like, oh, let me make sure that the American crowd understands it and the Ugandan crowd. I'm like, no, tell the very, very specific story about the girl in Kampala that lives at this specific zip code, even though we don't use zip codes in Uganda. But you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like what we're actually telling is stories of humanity, right? And so I just cater to myself. I'm a selfish artist. I cater to myself. I write the thing that I want to see. And I trust that because I am human, there are other people just like me who want to see that story. And if not, then I spent $50,000 on a movie and I enjoyed it.
You know something though that you bring up, and it's making me think. So Triana, you actually were able to work also, like Kemi, you work in LA, but you work elsewhere. You're working in Madrid. So how are things business-wise that differentiate that we can like share with our filmmaking crowd? You know, what are some differences in things? Like for example, with me, I worked in London for a bit, and I honestly had to constantly be reading the trades in America. But then when I started to work in America, I started to advise all the companies that I was with. I was like, listen, London is the next big thing. Why aren't we watching and reading British news as well? You know what I mean? So what are some tips? What are some advice, some things business-wise that we could acknowledge to our audience? Triana, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I think it's very important to stay current in all events worldwide. Nowadays, it's so easy to really just subscribe yourself to news around the world and just get the highlight of each country. But in addition to that, I agree that with Kenny, that local things resonate because it's a human thing. So I think it plays against us to really try to make it so global because it's global by nature. And I think when we're trying to accomplish so much, we miss a point, right?
Yeah.
So I guess an advice that I could give would be to stay true to what you want to say and what really resonates with you. And if it takes place in Madrid, it doesn't matter because that's just a setup. And what really matters is what's happening to that specific character and what that character is going through. And that's what people resonate with. Yes, it might be prettier if it takes place in like a wonderful island in Fiji, but that doesn't mean I'm going to resonate with the character more if it takes place there, right? So I think like what they call global now is that it has a global appeal, but it's so local, right?
Yeah.
And I think a wonderful example, if we talk about Spain, was Money Heist. Money Heist was never made to appeal globally. It was made for Spanish audiences. And then it found a marketing way, and then people started really buying into this show, and it became a huge thing internationally. So much so that it was released in Spain years before it was on Netflix, and it wasn't as successful in Spain, right? So then when Netflix brought it on, they had to regather everyone to make seasons 3 and 4. So I think it's so interesting that they never aimed for the global market, and then they became the biggest hit in Spanish-speaking content on Netflix, right? So again, I just think the authenticity of what you're trying to say can shine through projects. But again, stay current in everything, just because you never know, especially now, you never know which connections can get you farther. And it's always important to know creatives everywhere else, so you know who to collaborate with and make strategic, again, and I'm gonna go a little bit redundant with what I said before, but there's new opportunities in collaborating and co-productions and doing things that are bicultural in terms of logistics or production.
I know we're like wrapping up soon, so I have to ask one more question, but before I do, I really want to give some space for Esi and Rashaan. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add to that question as well?
Sure. So just adding on to what everybody else said, I think another important thing is study the creatives in that particular country or in that industry, because each industry has their rising stars and they have the ones that are also coming up. So make sure you reach out to them. And I mean, with social media, it's very easy to slide into people's DMs and say like, hey, you know, Kimmy.
I've been sliding for all kinds of reasons.
So, you know, get a chance to get in contact with the people locally where you're trying to work, because they're going to be the ones to tell you exactly what you need, as well as tell you the problems that they may face. And you may be actually a solution for them. And so then that also comes a natural collaboration effort. And then now you're able to work with people abroad. I know people ask me this question all the time. I want to work in Africa, you know, and I always say, okay, that's fantastic. Where in Africa? You know, because it's just like someone saying from Africa or from Ghana, I want to work in America. where in America do you want to work? And so I think it's important that people start to specify which industry they want to work in, and then from there, research the industry, see the key players, reach out to them, and start just naturally creating those relationships. People don't always like being asked. I mean, people don't always like people wanting to get something from them. Create a natural relationship. We're all human. You know, we all started at some level in our life to where we built ourselves to where we are today. And all I learned is like, also ask people, what do you need? You know, instead of saying, this is what I want, what do you need? And just even opening up that type of question, now the person looks at you completely different, because now you're trying to add a solution to a problem that they probably have, instead of now trying to add another thing onto their plate that they don't have time for maybe at that moment. So that's what I would say. And then last thing is, like everybody else said, just study the market, read, see what's going on, webinars, listen to what other people are saying, and just maintain the connection and follow up. Follow up is so big. A lot of people don't follow up with people that they meet, and unfortunately those relationships go to the wayside. Continue to keep following up. Even if the person never responds back to you, say, hey, how you doing? Happy holidays. I hope you're good. You know, because then one day someone's like, you know what? Hey, Esi, I'm working on this project. We need a producer. I've seen, and sometimes they're watching you too, but they may never say anything. But with social media, everybody can just quickly do a Google search and see what you're currently doing. And so if you continue that nice, genuine relationship, I understand it's business, but think of people as people first, not as job opportunities first. So that's
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Rashaan, do you got anything else you want to add? Because I know you have some.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on the furthest end of the spectrum of that comment, because I work for a company whose bread and butter is a systematic logarithm of what they feel like the United States and people abroad want, and a certain type of viewership, and viewing. Mm-hmm. So they are very, very, very methodical in cultivating who their viewers are. They know who their people are, and that's who they write for. That's who they bring shows on for, and things of that nature. And they know what their international viewers want too. The shows that they cultivate are very, very popular, abroad. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. What was that show a couple of years ago about the guy who was like a con artist? I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here.
Keep going. What is it?
It was, oh goodness. It was about a gentleman who everybody thought was like this mastermind and would help the police and, solve these crimes.
White Collar? White Collar?
No, it was on CBS. And it was with an Australian lead, and it was very big in France, and it ended up being like the biggest show ever in France when it came to viewership. And so, the company I work for was like, oh, this is what people in France are interested in. And so they made more shows. The Mentalist, that was it. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm so embarrassed. Please don't fire me, CBS.
You are giving CBS the promotion that they need. We all need promotion. Do it.
I mean, and they were like, this is what they want in France. And so they cultivated that. They took a look at the numbers and they were like, this is popular. No to this show. Yes to this show. And so in response to that, the shows that they send abroad are super, super popular. And so I say to people who are interested in what's going and what to present to networks, pay attention to the numbers. Pay attention to the numbers abroad, because they don't just want something that sells here in the United States. They want something that's going to be interesting to people abroad, to a foreign market. And so when you have an opportunity to pitch, to broadcast, because it's different at HBO, or other premium companies, or other premium streamers now, it's different for what they want to cultivate and what they want to send out and put on their platforms. But if you're dealing with broadcast television, you can take a look at what they're putting out and what they're sending out internationally, and you can come in with something and pitch to them. Pitch to them what their bread and butter is. Don't come in there trying to be an artist, Don't come in there trying to give them, you know, what you want. Give them what they want, because they're the people who understand what the marketing is. Now, if I were going to pitch for me, and I was going to have my passion project, I would still look for a network, a platform, a premium cable channel or basic cable channel that would take where my project would fit.
Yes.
Go where you are wanted. Go in where you fit in. Don't take something that, you know, is very artistic and ethereal and you know, one of those things where people are standing around the water cooler in the morning going, well, do you understand what they were talking about? Like, I'm going to be honest with you. The show that ended on Monday, I May Destroy You, absolutely loved it. But at the end, I was like, what's going on?
Ooh, don't spoil though. Don't spoil.
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, good.
But I was like, what's going on? That would not work on broadcast television, but it is perfect for premium cable.
100%. No,
If
you were right.
If I may jump in, I think that's really, really great advice that you just gave. Like, I'm at the point in my career where I'm trying to merge art with business. I was in New York for about 7 years. I moved out to LA 2 years ago. And, you know, LA is an industry town, obviously. So you start to kind of quickly learn how to pitch and what, you know, you start to get a sense of like, okay, this isn't just about like my cool ideas. Like, I have to know where they're going to go and pitch it in a way that is going to appeal to people. So anyway, I just want to say, I thought that was like a great piece of advice, and go where you're wanted. I think kind of being in that transitional space, I think it can be really tough as an artist to find that, you know, merger between how do I like build this show and build this pitch where it's going to attract, you know, networks and stuff, but also they know what advertisers and stuff they can attract to it. Like, it feels a little icky as an artist. Like, you know, I don't think anybody went to film school for that probably, but it is important. Anyway, so I appreciated that advice.
Could I also add something?
Yes, go, come on.
Yeah. I think just because like I am more on the artist side, and like I would just add a little like additional thing to it. I found that sometimes people think too much about what people want. Like, they're like, oh, I want a show on HBO. And so they're like they're starting their creative process from there. And my theory is start as an artist. Like, don't even worry about where the business person is, because like, just like when you create a product, you can't be making ice cream and be thinking about who your suppliers are. So make the ice cream, make it the best ice cream in the world. And then think about like, where are you going to take this ice cream? And so I think like what Rashaan is saying is so perfect, because sometimes people are like, well, then I go to CBS. Like, your product is not CBS. Your product might be Showtime or whatever. And so I just say like, start with the thing you want to see. And the beautiful thing about right now is there's so many homes. There's so many streaming services. There is like so many places that you have to trust that there is a home for your thing. And then as the business person, when you put on the business side, that's when you look at it and be like, oh, this fits in here or this fits in then. Because I do think it's important to start as an artist and then move to the business person.
Yeah, I love that.
Because also, I stay adding, because this is the other thing. Sometimes they don't know what they want. Sometimes they don't know what they want. And sometimes they think they know what they want till you come in and you're like dope and you like sell the thing and they're like, oh, actually that's what we want. Because there's always that show that is like, they didn't know that they wanted it, and then boom, it's like a hit.
This industry is rife with stories of people, executives who passed on things that later became a huge success.
Yes, The Sopranos, hello.
Yes. Ridiculous how many of those, and I wonder how those people still have jobs.
Yeah.
So many successful shows that were passed up on by this network or this premium cable or this platform, you know, and it's just ridiculousness. And you're like, oh my gosh, how could you have not read that script and thought like, we gotta have it. But I'm learning in the process of all of this that as that happens, okay, you have different tiers Okay, you got the first line executive, and then they've got to sell it to the second line executive, and then they've got to sell it to the third line executive. So your pitch could be out of this world, and people still be sitting around the table going, I don't see that. Like, I don't understand that. And then if you have a supportive executive that will come in and like pitch into your pitch, and they're like, no, we got to have this. We have to have this. But still, they want to know how they're going to make their money back. When is it going to happen? How long is it going to take to produce this? I mean, especially in COVID today, like how many people are going to be on set and all this other kind of stuff. So it's ridiculousness, you know, the amount of levels and that you have to, and tiers that you have to go through. But I totally agree with Kemiyondo. I really do.
And it's like dating, right? Because the person who passes on you might be doing you a favor. I mean, thank you to all my exes that passed on me, because, you know, I would not have gotten to where I needed to go, you know? And I feel like sometimes, like, maybe if my project was passed on CBS or like ABC, maybe that was not the right pairing. They may even think it's a great script and be like, this is just not a match for where this is supposed to go. And so I just think sometimes a pass is a good thing.
All right.
I think it's so important to find your creative partner. And if it's not a natural match, many times it goes against the project instead of for it. And just to piggyback off of what Rashaan was saying, I think it's, I think everyone was saying, but it's so important to start as an artist. And then part of that, all that tier jumping, I think it's so relevant to try to figure out who you're talking to and speaking to people's listening. So the way you pitch your story to an actor should be very different than the way you pitch it to an executive, than the way you pitch it to a potential investor, right? Because they all need different things from your project. So once you have your baby, I think it's just a matter of how you shape it to sell it into what people are looking for, just so you can really knock those tiers down, I guess.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to ask our last question, and, you know, for the sake of time, we got to make it quick. So this is what I'm thinking. If you could have a log line length piece of advice to give to our audience, what would it be? Mine would be, for writers, learn how to break down a script, Google it, learn how to do it, and you'll know your budget a lot better. So does anybody want to start us off? Dionna, you want to start us off?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I guess this would be more for directors. I would say, as you're trying to find your path as a director, I think one of the best things you can do is find 5 directors that you really like. Ideally, people who maybe aren't like A-list directors, but like well on their way, and just look at their careers and look at what they did to get to where they are. And a lot of times you want to reverse engineer it, see where they are, and then see what it is that they did to get there, and see which one of those things might fit within their plan. I think that's helpful.
All right, who's going to take us next? Let's do it. Esi?
Okay. I would say more for producing. If you have to fully believe in the story that you're going to produce, if possible, because producing is a lot of work, and depending on what you're doing, it can take years to see that materialize. And so make sure that whatever project you choose, that you truly are passionate about it, or you can see yourself being on that project for 4 + 5 years or even more.
Yes. All right, Triana?
Yeah, I guess I'll just give general advice, but I think being respectful to people and knowing their craft, because many times relationships are what get you to the next level. So be nice to everyone and try to have a genuine interest for others and respect for them, because whoever you're meeting on your way up, you might meet on your way down. So you really want to kind of stay in peace with everyone.
100%. 100%. So Kemi and then Rashaan?
I would say for the other multi-hyphenates, I would say find your personal life slogan, calling, purpose. Like I said, mine is to see and be seen. And find that thing that you feel at your core is what you are called to do. And experiment with as many ways as possible to do that very thing. That's it.
Excellent. I would say that as a writer, figure out what it is you're writing and write accordingly. A lot of times we try and put so many stories into one thing, and so when we go to pitch, we really don't know what we're pitching. But when you figure out what it is, bring it down to the commonest denominator, the most simple common denominator that you can, and pitch that. If it's a family story and the people are fighting, it's really about love. You know, that's what it is. That's all family stories are about love, no matter whether or not it's The Sopranos or whether or not it's, you know, about God Friended Me, you know, or, you know, something else, Dynasty, from way, way, way back in the day when I was a little kid and I used to sneak and stay up and watch that show. It was all about fighting family who really loved each other but were horrible to each other. Figure out what you're writing and write accordingly.
I am in awe with all of your advice. Thank you guys so much. Before we wrap up, I would love for you each to just send out your socials to the world. So would one of you guys take over, say your socials, and then we'll say our thank yous and goodbyes? Rashaan, you want to start off?
I don't have any.
It's okay. That's okay. No worries. Okay. And Kemi, you want to go?
Yes, it's at Kemi, Kemi_Yondo, YONDO.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Triana?
I'm at Triana Garcia with an S at the end.
Perfect. No period, right? Just together?
All together. Yeah.
Awesome. Esi?
Instagram, it's Esi Yamoah. So it's just my first and last name with the period in the middle. And then the same thing for Facebook, but without the period. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to know.
At Dionna Film, DIONNAFILM.
Okay, and I'm at Jessica Matat, Hakuna Matata without the extra A. Thank you so much. This was the most passionate, lively, incredible panel that I've ever been a part of. Thank you all again for your time. And let's all say goodbye to the audience.
Everybody.
Bye.